Good morning, everybody. 7th Congressional District Representative Tom Tiffany is my very special guest today, Thursday, October 14th, 2021. I'm Ben Dryden, and you're watching Breakfast with Tiffany, a monthly live video podcast with our 7th Congressional District Representative, where we discuss all the goings-on in Washington, D.C. and the 7th Congressional District, which, of course, is in our Northwest Wisconsin. Special thank you to our guests so far this month. Candidate for Wisconsin Governor Jonathan Wickman, Barron County Sheriff Chris Fitzgerald, candidate for Wisconsin Lieutenant Governor Ben Volkel, and, of course, yesterday we had an exclusive interview with Romaine Quinn, who had just announced this week, I think it was on Tuesday, his bid for Wisconsin's 25th Senate District. You can watch a recording of those and all of our live shows on our website at drydenwire.com, on our Facebook page under our videos tab, or on our YouTube channel. That's kind of where we store all of our videos. Just go to YouTube and search Dryden Wire. But today, very excited to welcome back for this month's installment of Breakfast with Tiffany, friend of the show, Congressman Tom Tiffany. Tom, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Ben. How are you?
I'm fantastic.
It's been a great fall, hasn't it?
It is just gorgeous. That's just it. Like, this is a good time. Now, if the bats go away, I'd be really happy because, like, I like bats outside.
You got bats in your belfry?
Bats in our house isn't fun. Okay.
Trust me. I know, especially when my wife has poked me a couple times over the years and in the middle of the night and said, "Would you get that bat?" No, I want to sleep.
Right, me too. My kids come downstairs at like 3 a.m. There's a bat upstairs. I'm like, well, sleep downstairs because I'm not going to. So we close the upstairs doors and, just hope it goes away. Oh, I hate bats in the house. Anyway, so aside from that, that's why I like it when it gets colder because then they kind of go away. But yeah, it's just a gorgeous morning. Great fall beginning here already in Northwest Wisconsin. And where are you right now? Are you at home? Are you in D.C.? Where are you?
Yeah, I am in Minocqua, and as you can see, I'm a little informal today.
Nice.
Long day yesterday, traveling all over the state. I spoke before the Wisconsin Grocers Association convention over in Green Bay, and then went back to Wausau to the office, had some work to do there with my staff. And then we ended up last night over in your neck of the woods in Polk County. We were at the Browtine, where
yes.
The Towns Association had a regional meeting. I think it was Burnett, Polk, and Barron counties. They had a meeting where they had a presenter in regards to how you can spend those federal stimulus dollars through the program called ARPA. It was a really good program, and I think real valuable for locally elected officials in our towns. So I attended that, had a chance to see that as well as speak, and good to see all those people out at the Browtine last night.
Yeah, isn't that Adam Jarko's? I think his wife owns Browtine, right?
Yeah, so it was.
So did you get a chance to see
Adam Jarko's?
Yeah.
I mean, it was his wild dream, and he makes his wife do all the work when he buys these enterprises.
Yeah.
He is so fortunate to have his wife, Barb, because she does a terrific job running those enterprises. Oh, yeah, Adam Jarko, the legend of Polk County.
The legend. I'm going to write that down. The legend of Polk. Yeah, and by the way, aren't we all blessed to have our wives in our lives? Because, when people talk about, my better half, no, my wife is like my better 5/8. She is, if it wasn't for her, like, my life wouldn't exist. It's awesome. So anyway, I want to quickly ask you just about, because I brought that up right there in the intro, about Romaine Quinn. I think this was kind of, I wouldn't say expected. It wasn't like a Rebecca Clayfish, the worst kept secret in Wisconsin politics for the last year, that she was going to be running for governor. But I'd heard some, rumblings and some, hey, have you heard anything? No, not really. Like, I talked to Romaine, but he doesn't tell me anything. We usually talk about his ads for his real estate business. So when that came out, I wasn't necessarily surprised. But now that he has announced that he is running in the 25th Senate District, and obviously you're a congressperson now in the 7th CD, but you were a part of the legislature in Madison when Romaine was in the Assembly, and you were in the Senate, so you obviously know Romaine. What are your thoughts about his announcement and that he's kind of getting back into the game?
Yeah, so it's been a busy week this week, and I just saw it last night that Romaine is going to run for that Senate district, the 25th Senate
Yeah.
district.
On Drydenwire, I
And
hope.
what's that?
On Drydenwire, I hope you saw
Oh, yeah,
that. Uh-huh.
yeah,
Okay. Sure.
absolutely.
Sure. Mm.
So, quite honestly, I was a little bit surprised because Romaine left state office a couple years ago.
Hmm.
And of course, he and his wife Raquel had a child,
Yeah.
and which is always a game changer in our lives, right? And I was a little bit surprised, but maybe should not have been because I think Romaine got into politics all the way back when he was the mayor of Rice Lake as
Right.
a very young man.
Yeah.
He wanted to make changes that make our communities better. And I think Romaine sees what's happening across our country and in the state of Wisconsin, that these are really serious times for America and for Wisconsin with the people really trying to take away our freedoms. Uh, Having someone that's going to be a strong voice for Northwestern Wisconsin. And I think Romaine thinks that he's that person. I think he views it as his calling to do this at this point. And he takes this very seriously that, it isn't a matter of just, hey, I want to be a state senator. I think Romaine got into politics for the right reason. And I think he sees in just 2 short years here, having been out of the legislature, that there's very serious issues that need to be dealt with in our state. And he believes he's qualified for that. And he's going to make his case to the people. And I think one of the things that people are going to find out is in my working with Romaine, and this is not a Republican or Democrat issue, he really is one of the nicest people to
Yeah.
work with. He's very easy to work with. He communicates very well. He works across party lines when it's needed and when it's appropriate. And I think he just brings a really good demeanor to the table. I'm sure as a realtor, he's that way. I'm sure as a father, he is that husband and father, he's that way. And I know he's that way as a legislator. So he will have a real opportunity to be successful here. Janet Bewley, works extremely hard, and she's a proven vote getter. It'll be interesting to see what Senator Bewley does now, whether she chooses to run again. But this will be, if Senator Bewley chooses to run, this will be one of the biggest state Senate races in the state of Wisconsin next year.
Why? Why? Why do you say that?
Because there's usually only a few Senate races that are really highly challenged
Election cycle? Right.
each election cycle.
Sure.
So only half of the state Senate seats are up each election cycle
Oh,
every two
so what is
years.
that? 15, 16 then?
So
No,
there'll be
17.
so this would be the odd number. So there'll be 17 that'll be up for election in 2022, and many of them have incumbents in them, so they will. Those will be very difficult seats to overturn. So you end up with about two, three, maybe four seats that end up being highly contested. Actually, there's another one south of us, or south of you guys in Eau Claire,
Yeah.
going down to like Black River Falls and that
The
area all the way
third.
over to the Mississippi River.
Right. Yes.
That I think will also be a highly contested race. And this will be a big race. There's going to be a lot of money thrown at it from both sides. And depending upon what Senator Bewley does,
Right.
the Republicans have shown now with Romaine Quinn running, they will have a top tier candidate challenging for this seat.
One more follow up here on that. I want you to put your political hat on, not your Republican hat on. Do you think if Senator Bewley does, or as you had said, chooses to run or seek reelection, and it is just the two of them, do you think that he has a chance to, if everything goes well, etc.? Can he win that?
Oh, sure, he can. Sure, he can win that race. It'll be a highly contested race. There'll be a ton of money put in. Senator Bewley is the minority leader.
Yeah.
The Democrats will want to protect her. Every seat in the state Senate is precious. they will put a ton of money in there. And
Mm.
remember, you have the other statewide races that are in the backdrop of this. You have the governor's race. You also have the United States Senate race with Ron Johnson's seat being up. These are going to be highly contested races. And I believe the Democrats, if Senator Bewley is wavering at all of whether she's going to run or not, I believe they are going to push her extremely hard to run because they want to have an incumbent running in that race. There will be a lot of pressure on her to run in this race because she will give them the best chance to be successful.
Got it. All right, so let's get back to you, since our show was literally called Breakfast with Tiffany, not
Yeah.
Breakfast with Romaine. So thank you for all that insight. I really do appreciate that because I love the political part of it. 7th Congressional District in Washington, D.C. Where do you want to start? It's been a month since you've been on. What is new? What are the issues that you're looking at? You just said that you were in our district recently. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, so you certainly have these big issues, the big spending bills that are out there that have not been resolved by the Democrats who are in power. But there are some local regional issues that we are always working on, and so a couple of those in this big infrastructure bill, the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill. Representative Stauber from the Arrowhead of Minnesota, who he resides in Duluth, he and I have a very good relationship. We work together a lot, especially in regards to Twin Ports issues. He says Duluth Superior, I say Superior Duluth. But nonetheless, we do work together very closely. And one of the things that we put into the infrastructure bill is allowing businesses in the Twin Ports to be able to get contracting work from the federal government, in particular for military contracts. Because at this point, of course, the big shipyard up there is Fraser, and they are a real cornerstone business to the Twin Ports. And we're seeking to get them the opportunity to be able to get more money because you have the big military ports of call that are on our coast, especially in the Gulf Coast
Mhm.
and on the East and West Coast, where most of the work goes on for our waterborne craft that are in the Navy, in our military. We want to be able to allow companies like Fraser to be able to bid on that because there's times that they can't handle all the work. The official defense ports, they do not have sometimes enough capacity to be able to take care of some of the work. Well, hey, we have the opportunity here with a top-notch shipbuilding company, top-notch ship repair company with the facilities to do it up in Superior and Duluth. And we want to give them that opportunity. We advanced an amendment to make that happen. It did pass. And if this bill passes, I sure hope it'll be a good thing for the Twin Ports that'll happen. But yeah, Representative Stauber and I worked very hard on that. We think it would be great for the Twin Ports and for northwestern Wisconsin and
Yeah,
northeastern
no kidding.
Minnesota.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't even know that there was what was that business called?
Fraser Shipyards.
Fraser. I didn't even know that they had the capacity to do that stuff.
So
Didn't
like
even know
the
that.
yeah, so like the big freighters that haul iron
Yeah.
ore on the Great Lakes
Yep.
freighters, they have the capacity to be able to do work, and they do work. I don't know if it's every winter, but it's not uncommon for them to be doing work on those freighters through the winter, getting them ready for
Huh.
the next shipping season. And those are some big boats, and so they can handle some pretty decent sized stuff,
Mm.
as well as they're into fabrication of various size vessels. And so they have the capacity, not for the biggest stuff. They're not going to put an aircraft carrier
Right.
in the Twin
Yeah.
Ports,
Yeah.
even though it'd be great to see,
Yeah,
wouldn't
it'd
it?
be cool.
You're not going to see an aircraft carrier there, but they can deal with some of the smaller stuff that in particular, the
Awesome.
Navy has. And why don't we give them the opportunity? They have top-notch
Yeah.
craftsmen. They know what they're doing, and sometimes they have the capacity to be able to take that work on. Let's give them the chance.
No kidding. My wife and I, a couple, 3 times a year, actually just this last weekend we like to go away for a weekend. But when we go away, we go like within a 2-hour radius. We don't want to go that far because we don't want to spend our whole weekend in a car. So
Yeah.
let's Eau Claire or Menominee. Maybe our next trip we'll head up to Superior area for our next weekend getaway and kind of go and check that place out. Because again, I never even heard of it before, and I didn't even know that they had the capabilities of being able to do this
So
stuff. That is so cool that we have that right here.
yeah, so think about it, Ben. You're in Spooner,
Mhm.
Wisconsin. You are not very far from
No.
Superior. There are a lot of people, including in northwestern Wisconsin, that really don't realize how critical the Twin Ports is to not just Wisconsin and Minnesota, not just the Midwest, not just the United States, but all of North America. You have all of this. It is a transportation hub that all comes together there. You have pipelines that come there. You have the port, which accepts traffic from the Great Lakes. You have a number of the Class 1 rail carriers that travel through Superior and Duluth. And you have a major airport in Duluth. And of course, you have the interstate that goes all the way up from the Twin Cities to Superior and Duluth. It all comes together there. And I have been saying for years that this is one of the most critical transportation hubs that we have in North America. And we need to make sure that we're investing in those in places like that in order to keep our economy humming. Superior is absolutely a critical city for North America, for everything that we do that keeps our economy moving.
Yeah, I need to find out more about that. And yeah, we're definitely going
Hey,
up there
maybe we could
next.
do a. Hey, what if we did a Dryden Wire Insider? Go up
Oh,
and I'll contact the Fraser people
love it.
and do a Dryden Wire documentary. How do you like that?
Sounds like a lot of production, a lot of work for no money. But you know what? I'm totally down. I'm always looking for something new to try. So yeah, we have our camera and we can get I don't know, some of the little lapel things, microphone.
We'll have to
No
clear
problem.
this
We'll
with
figure this
Fraser's.
out. That's going to be great. No kidding. Let's make sure we actually do that. I'm not kidding. Let's do that. All right.
Before I go any further, I'm going to
Sure.
need to talk to the Fraser people.
Oh, well, we just made up their
Hey,
mind for.
so yeah, so the other thing that was of real regional importance,
Hmm?
the Wisconsin Towns Association and Counties Association, they put together a kind of an online program, a virtual program that I was able to do last week with an attorney from the Western states, Karen Bud Fallon. She runs a private interest law firm out of Cheyenne, Wyoming. Had a chance to. I belong to the Western Caucus. I joined to the Western Caucus. They deal with a lot of property rights issues. They deal with a lot of natural resources issues, and of course, those are very important to
Mm.
me, and I believe to my constituents. So she gave a presentation a number of months ago to the Western Caucus, and I found it really interesting, and I wanted to share it with locally elected officials. And in a nutshell, what it was about is in federal law, when you see things like the National Environmental Policy Act, the Federal Land Policy Management Act, some of these really big overarching bills that were passed 50 to 60 years ago to protect the environment, that they guide how we go about development of natural resources throughout our country. And many local officials, when they see the federal government come in and make decisions, and they scratch their heads sometimes and go, why in the world did they make that decision? Why didn't they come and talk to us? Well, what I wanted to emphasize to these locally elected officials is you can get them to come to your table and talk to you. There's a couple things that are in federal law, one called coordination, but the other very important is consistency review with local land use plans. So each local unit of government that is in Wisconsin, whether you're a town, county, village, city, whatever, they all are required to have a local land use plan. And the federal government needs to be as consistent as possible with that local land use plan. That gives you some authority as a locally elected official. So I served 2 terms as a town board member a little over a decade ago. And there were times that I wondered, why does the state and federal government do these things and not come and talk to us?
Mm.
And when I began to see that this stuff was actually in federal law, that they do need to work with a local government if the local government requests it. And that's the key thing that it takes is a local government understanding the authority they have. That's what we talked about last week with hundreds of local officials across the state is you do have some authority, and we're happy to help locally elected officials that may be tuned in any way that we can for example, like a national forest issue.
Mm.
If they're going to close down some roads that affect your local town, they should be coming to explain to you how that's not going to harm your town. Because if it's going to do some harm, including, let's say it's going to harm a local sawmill because they can't get wood then
Oh, sure.
out of that area,
Mhm.
you can bring that up if it's in your local land use plan. So, anyhow, without getting too in depth, we can help people if they're interested.
And how do they do that?
Just contact my office
Sure.
in DC, or they can contact our office locally, 715-298-9344. Just go online
Sure,
and
sure.
you can find it and
Yeah.
shoot us an email. We would be happy to address, to try to be helpful.
Sure. So we have okay, it's long, so I haven't seen if it's a question or not. Can you see that on the screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, it may go away, so I may have to put it back up. Independent, okay. I still around John. Okay, I have no issues with you. Aw. Well, look at that. You gotta. I guess she doesn't agree with your wolf hunt. Let me put that back up. It goes away after 15 seconds.
Yeah, I saw that. Hey, so why
Yeah,
don't we,
yeah,
you want me to address the question, Ben?
yeah.
Yeah,
Please.
yeah, yeah. Hey, thanks a lot for the question, Joanne. Really appreciate it. So, in regards to the wolf hunt, the primary reason why I believe that there's two reasons to have the wolf hunt. One, their population far exceeds the federal goal. The goal that the Fish and Wildlife Service set for the state of Wisconsin, we far exceed that. And it is important that we manage all wildlife populations. That's why we have a deer hunt. That's why we have the various hunting seasons, because if you don't do it, they will get out of control. I'll give you a quick example. New Jersey, they got rid of the bear hunt. This is like 10, 15 years ago. They got rid of bear hunting. Well, guess what? They began to have really big problems with bears. Hunters fulfill a very important role, and that includes with the wolf hunt. But the second, and as big a reason as controlling the wolf population, is that the federal government has been controlling it. That should not be the case. It should be the state that controls the wolf hunt.
Well, hold on.
And
Why? Why should this? Why do you believe the state should control that?
because the state, they're closer to the situation. The federal government, they're going to do a cookie cutter approach, and Montana's not like Wisconsin. Wisconsin's not like Louisiana.
Right.
It should be up to us to, in our state, to decide how that's going to work. So let's set that aside.
Sure.
Joanne and I disagree in regards to
Yeah.
that.
That's
But
perfectly fine.
she was really bringing up the partisanship, and so it is it is deeply. Let's look at our current situation. President Biden said that I'm going to represent all Americans, that I'm looking out for the interests of all Americans. I am not going to be like President Trump with the mean tweets and things like that. We have to bring people together. What has happened since then? And I have to tell you, when you see the utter debacle that happened in Afghanistan, we do not have a southern border right now. Millions of people coming into our country that are coming in illegally, carrying disease that the Biden administration tells us we have to stay home and we must get vaccinated, yet he doesn't do that for people coming into our country illegally. And then you have inflation with the first bill that he advocated for and signed, the $2 trillion stimulus bill early in this year.
Mhm.
That has really exacerbated inflation, and we're seeing it. I think about my friends and neighbors. I paid 80 cents a gallon for propane a year ago in August to fill my tank at home. I paid $1.50. I think about my friends and neighbors, and they're all paying that once again this year. That is the inflation that we're seeing. We're seeing it in food, and it does not have to be. So, should I stand back silently when I know that policies that are being put in place are causing these problems for our country? As your elected representative, I believe it is my duty to call out things
Mhm.
when I see that they're being done incorrectly. And I'll give you another example. We did the really hard work, the nearly 10 years that I was in the state legislature balancing the budget. It was not pretty. People were angry with us at times because we had to say no to some of the spending that was being proposed.
Mhm.
Look at where Wisconsin is now. It has a budget that is in surplus. There were, I believe, $2 billion returned to the taxpayers this past year in the last budget because of proper budgeting. And then you look at what's happening at the federal government. where we have a budget chairman saying we can spend however much we want because we can't go bankrupt.
Right.
You have a political leader in this country, Nancy Pelosi's budget director, who says we can't go bankrupt. He obviously is not a student of history. Argentina, Greece, Germany of the 1920s and 30s. So I cannot stand silently when I see things that are being done that are really counterproductive for America. And President Biden said he was going to govern down the middle. He was going to work with Democrats and Republicans. He is not working with us at all. Whereas, like myself and Representative Stauber, we're putting together a bipartisan amendment to help people in Duluth and Superior, in particular the Twin Ports, with the shipping thing that we just talked about. We are trying to do that, but I have to call out things when they are being done wrong
Sure.
by our federal government.
So I want to say something, and I know I'm going to get in trouble for it, which that's fine. I kind of get used to that. So I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, but I definitely have more conservative ideologies and philosophies, probably just because I was raised in my faith and etc. But I've always looked at Republicans and Democrats as Republicans are my parents, and Democrats are my grandparents. So my parents are the ones that are, they're disciplined. They're the ones that say that, no, you can't get this. It's too much. We're talking fiscally here. And then grandparents are, the kids come over and help them with, the grandkids come over and help them for like 15 minutes. And they give them like $50 bill. I'm like, what are you doing? Don't give them that $50 bill. Now they expect that all the time. But I don't know. It's silly, but that's how I've always kind of looked at it. Most of the things that they want to get done, yes, I want to also get that done. But, we have a budget. Let's not go crazy here. I want to circle back real quick on this. You had said that not getting anything done, and with Biden, does this from a political standpoint, is this because of the upcoming election where we don't want to give Republicans any victories, so we're not going to work with them kind of a thing?
There's certainly some of that attitude that is out there. I would, just in terms of the bigger picture, how I legislate is I believe we want to bring back as much local and state control as possible from the federal government. I would just pose this question to Joanne and others that are watching: is the federal government has accrued more and more power. How has that worked out for America?
What?
And set aside your partisan hat for a second, whether you're Republican or Democrat. How has that worked out as we've given greater authority to the federal government? And I don't think it's gone well. For example, we had the debt limit vote this week, and people are like, "Oh, the government's going to default if we don't pass this," and things like that. Most people don't realize we are taking in the most money ever in the federal government right now in taxes. We have a spending problem, not a revenue problem. And at some point, you're absolutely right. The parents need to say, stop the madness. We have to spend within our means. We have to be fiscally responsible. We can't always have the grandparents, like Bernie Sanders, who wants to spend us into oblivion.
Yeah. Well, in this scenario, in my house, I would be the Democrat, and my wife would be the Republican.
Yeah.
And yeah, I always bet you can't be spending. I'm like, I don't, but the money's there. And if we run out, I got credit cards.
Yeah.
But thankfully,
Yeah.
she runs the budget and I don't,
Yeah.
or we'd be in a lot of trouble. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. What else? We're already up to almost 30 minutes here. Is there anything else that you are focusing on in Washington, D.C., or things that are happening in the 7th Congressional District or in Wisconsin, maybe in general, that you wanted to make sure that we talked about?
Well, why don't we close with this, Ben, since this is a really good question that was posed there. And ultimately, it is about paying the bills. And our country is getting to a point where it's not going to be able to pay the bills. Inflation is really ramping up. I've been meeting with a lot of local businesses, large and small, and they're deeply concerned about what's going to happen in 2022 here with the cost of goods and services going up very, very rapidly. Very difficult time getting supplies in. Our supply chain is in tatters, and it's not going to get better with these vaccine mandates. President Biden has made a serious mistake requiring these vaccine mandates. First of all, I don't believe that it's legal, but he's put businesses in a terrible spot where they are now adversaries with their employees. And that is a terrible
Oh,
thing to
sure.
do. And it is the wrong thing to do. But let's talk about the budget stuff once again.
Hmm.
So let's be real clear. Bernie Sanders is in charge of what's going on with the budget at this point and all these spending bills. And he has made it very clear that he has a socialist vision. And I know some people, they scoff at that a little bit, but it truly is. Bernie identifies as an independent. He has very openly said, I am a socialist. I believe that is where we have to go. He is the chief budget writer in the United States Senate, and he is proposing free community college, more free health care, more free child care. If people are going to see how expensive free is, if this stuff is enacted, because we all know there's no
No
free
free. No,
lunch.
there isn't.
There is no such thing. And I'm hoping at some point that there will be some sanity that will come to Washington, D.C., because if even a couple $1 trillion of this spending passes, remember when President Obama did his major, major fiscal stimulus bill over a decade ago in 2009, that was barely $1 trillion. We've already spent what, like 4 or 5 trillion
Almost
dollars in
five,
the
I think.
last
Yeah.
year and a half, and they're talking about another anywhere from $2 to $5 trillion. Inflation is going to go off the charts, and it is a horrible thing because it will erode your buying power. You may get a raise, but it's all going to get eaten
Right.
up because
Yes.
you're going to be paying more for propane,
Yeah.
food, and all the rest of the stuff that cover our daily lives. So I am deeply concerned, and it's the main reason why I ran originally for the state
Mm.
legislature is fiscal accountability, and it deeply concerns me what's going on in DC right now.
Yeah, we need parents. We just do.
I mean, there's a better way to do it, and that's let's take power away from Washington D.C., return it to our state and local governments, where people are closer to the problems. They will get better solutions than Washington D.C. does with their cookie cutter approach. It will be People will be much happier if their state and local governments are making the decision where they can contact local people
Love it.
who are making those decisions
Yeah.
rather than this faraway land out in Washington, D.C. that is not connected
Yeah.
with reality.
By the way, there is one thing that is free, and that's dreadwire.com.
Dried wire.
So speaking of that, real quick, I thought of something about all the money that's being spent. It's the 14th today, which means tomorrow is payday. Payday is in child tax credit. We'll get more money put into our account, etc. We just keep actually putting it away because we assume that our taxes next year, they're going to take it. But I believe then that would mark, I think there's only 3 left of those originally. I don't know if you're a part of this process or not. But I believe, of course, that Biden is looking to have that extended, I think, through 2025. Are you aware of that? Are you a part of the decision making? Do you have an opinion and or view on that?
Well, I hope I have a vote. I hope he doesn't try to do it by executive order, which is a whole nother issue. But yes, I should have a vote on that. And I believe these various stimulus payments, we need to stop. We need to stop. And because ultimately people are going to pay they're going to pay one of two ways, either through higher taxes or greater inflation. You're going to pay one of two ways for this free money that has been coming in because there is no free lunch. I have
No.
not been voting for these stimulus bills ever since I came into Congress a year and a half ago, and I will not be doing it now. We need to get back to the basics. Give people more freedom and opportunity, keep their taxes low, reduce regulations, and then let them lead their lives without dictating to them how they should lead their lives. And everyone will be far happier in our country.
Is there any more movement? I hope there isn't. Is there any more movement on the $15 an hour minimum wage?
So no, I would have to check the reconciliation bill, the 3.5 trillion that has all these freebies in it. I'd have to check that one for sure to see if that's in there. In effect, we now have a $15 an hour minimum wage in this country. I know there's a few employers that don't pay that yet, but boy, it's rare to see an employer now that is paying less than $15 an hour.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
basically happened as a result of market forces.
yeah, and boy, talk about inflation. if that did. Because now there's people that are making 13 or 14, and then it all goes up to 15, and a lot of middle management as well. They were getting, let's say someone's getting $10 an hour and they're getting 18. If everybody goes up to 15, well, now they're like, well, I've been here for 10 years and I run a whole department, and now basically they're all making the same as I am. Now, I get it. But I think it's important to still have that minimum wage, because when I think of minimum wage, I guess I've had a blessed life. I've worked very hard, but I've never worked for a minimum wage. Actually, I did. Not true. I did when I was in high school. Part-time working at Hardware Hank here in Spooner. I think it was $4.25 an hour is what I got paid as being a 16-year-old. But I think that's what I look at minimum wage is. Part-time, younger people or an older person. It doesn't matter what your age is. It's just, I don't know any 25-year-olds that are working full-time at minimum wage. And if they are, there's probably a reason, and there's a lot of those reasons. But that's kind of on you at that point. But then again, I'm in Northwest Wisconsin. I haven't lived, maybe it's a inner city issue, which I've only lived in the inner city for a couple of years, but I didn't really get to know, people's pay. But I think we kind of need to keep it there. And if we want to move it up a little bit or over time, fine. But jeepers, doubling it, I think there could be some downsides to that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I want people to make as much money as their talent and their skill and their determination takes them. And I don't think anyone should settle for a minimum wage. Shoot for the stars. That's what America has always been about.
Amen.
Let's have opportunity. I want to just say one other thing.
Sure.
One of the things really driving this inflation is higher energy costs. And energy affects our daily lives in every way, right? The truck that delivers our groceries, our hardware, how we heat our homes, natural gas, propane, whatever the case may be. Affordable energy is at the heart of prosperity in America. And that's one of the first decisions that President Biden made, was he said, we're shutting down some of these pipelines. So he shut down Keystone XL out west. That's been kind of the poster child. Yep. But we have a governor over in Michigan who's trying to shut down the rebuilding of Line 5 through the Mackinac Straits, which has a direct impact. That line comes from the twin ports of Superior and Duluth and feeds refineries all over southern Canada, as well as down in Ohio and Toledo and places like that. And those type of actions are helping to drive the cost of energy up. And that is rippling through our economy. It's a big reason we're seeing this inflation at this point. We need affordable energy for economic security, job security, and national security.
All right, so I don't want to end on that. I want to end on a positive note here. So give us something positive that we can all kind of, okay, all right, great show. Give us a positive.
Hey, we all live in northern Wisconsin. We had one of the most beautiful summer and falls that I've seen, and it's just been terrific. We should always be thankful for where we live. We also live in America, where we have differences of opinion, as Joanne wrote earlier. This is where we debate them. And we do this without going to war. We did go to war once back in the 1860s, unfortunately, over this, but our country has not done that. And that's what we need to continue to do, is hammer out those differences in those town halls, in the state legislatures, in our nation's capital. That's why good, robust debate is a good thing. And I'm going to continue to stand for freedom and opportunity for the people of the 7th Congressional District of Wisconsin, because I believe then that's when America prospers, and we're going to get back to that at some point in time.
Tom, as always, it's a pleasure. Thank you so very much.
Great to be with you.
Awesome. I'm Ben Dryden, and you've been watching Breakfast with Tiffany. Special thank you to, of course, our guest, 7th Congressional District Representative Tom Tiffany, for once again making himself available for questions and speaking with us today. Join us next month for another episode of our live chats with Tom. We do these every month on the second Thursday of the month. So until then, stay safe, be positive, and, of course, have a blessed day.